Recording in progress. Hi, Fabi.
Hi, Mr. Nelson. We're
Hi,
just gonna
Fabi.
give a few we're just gonna give a few minutes for more doctors to join, and then we'll start the session.
No problem. Hi, Fabi. In the meantime, I guess you can just allow me to share my screen.
Any other examples of religious practices?
Can we please mute our mics? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Speaking here is Dr. Seleka. Thank you so much for making time to be part of this webinar today. I will take this opportunity to welcome you all and just introduce Mr. Nelson Letsweni from First Sun Alliance, here to speak to us about navigating through black text while building wealth. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Take us through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Seleka. I suppose you can hear me, and I'm just putting my screen in, putting my presentation in presentation mode right now. Okay, let's see. Okay, are you able to hear me and see my screen?
Yes, we can hear you, and your screen is also visible.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for inviting us. Thank you for having us again. It's always a privilege for us as First Sun to share some of these ideas and knowledge so that we can continue to build great financial education, financial literacy. That is one of the pillars that we do as a means of supporting our clients. And so the BDU is very important to us, and that is why we have this program for you right now. Now, today we're going to talk about navigating through black text, even while we are trying to build wealth. Now, this is a very, I would say upfront, emotive topic on its own. So I'm going to apologize in advance if I'm going to step in anybody's toes. The nature of the topic itself is such that when you talk about black text, you are going to, give your own opinion of its view, but everybody else's opinion on how to go about it is valid. So this is the agenda that I'm going to follow today. I'm going to look at what is black text and where does that word come from, or those words come from, and how do they apply to us. And then we're going to look into the psychology of black text, and then we're going to look at the strategies that we can do to handle or deal with it. And then, of course, we're going to look at how to build wealth even as we are navigating through black text, and that will bring us to the summary of the presentation. So there you go. We have about 20 slides to go through. So the first thing is obviously that what is black text? The term black text was coined in South Africa. And so it's very important to put the disclaimer out there. It is not a government tax to black people, okay? It doesn't mean the government is out there ready to tax black people. It's got nothing to do with the Unified Revenue Services. Either in Botswana or anywhere in the world, there's no country that charges black tax, so to speak. But it is a term that has been used to describe what is going on in the lives mostly of black people. So in South Africa, the way that this thing was coined was, they said, if you take two kids and you put them through school and they become two young professionals. So for argument's sake, let's just say they are both engineers, and you give them a mining engineer. Let's just make a mining engineers. You take one and both of them, and you hire them at Anglo-American, and you pay them the same salary. What happens is what is going to happen to those two people is this: they both have equal opportunities and equal pay, but the white professional can start building wealth very, very early. And why is it that even though they were put through maybe the same school, through the same profession, same salary, the white professional can start building wealth early, and the black professional cannot ignore the legacy of poverty from whence they have come? And that is basically the big difference over there, is that the majority, and of course they apply to all white people in South Africa, but the majority of white people do not have legacies of poverty or problems that came from the past. So what happens is they get ahead and start building wealth, they contribute to their retirement, they build their portfolios and they go forward. But the majority of Black people, I guess we're gonna keep asking people, please mute your mics so that we can minimize disturbances. Quite a few people's mics are on. Boris, Malepa, Mbenge, please mute your mics. I don't know if the noise is coming from your end, but please let everybody mute their mics. So what happens is, like I said, it doesn't necessarily apply to all Black people or all white people. But what happens is the Black people cannot ignore the legacy of poverty from whence they have come. When I have spoken about this topic before, I was on BTV and we were talking about this topic. I said in Botswana, even though we call it Black tax, the comparison between Black and white doesn't necessarily work in Botswana. So I had chosen at the time to call it class tax, because there's a class of people in Botswana that had earlier opportunities and their children would not have to pay Black tax. And there's a class of people in Botswana who have not had those opportunities and therefore have got to pay Black tax. So in Botswana context, I would prefer to call it a class tax. But the way Black tax is not used in South Africa only, it's used all over the world. It's used in the US to point out to unequal opportunities to different races. You know, that if you're white, you're gonna get more opportunities than if you are Black. And so the term has become a worldwide phenomenon to refer to the discrepancies between white people and Black people. And some have even gone as far as to say white privilege and all that, but that's not what we are talking about. We're not talking about white privilege, we're talking about Black tax, or the disadvantage of that is brought about by the legacy of poverty from whence that many of us have come from. So what we are dealing with here as we move on with our presentation is this. I wanna jump into the psychology of Black tax in terms of how did we arrive here? Okay, when does Black tax start? At what point do we say now this person is paying Black tax? So when we look at our history, or the history of most of us who grew up in what we would call poverty, not abundance per se, we would say, think about those people who had to give up dreams to take care of the family. I'm sure many of us can relate to somebody having had to give up school so that they could get a job, so that they can be able to take care of the family. And so it's not just that something that applies to you right now. It's something that's been going on. People have given up dreams in order to help their siblings or to help their family. So they would give up the idea of going to school and get a job and try to help family members. Think about students who have to share their allowance with family. I know that is happening right here in Botswana. There's a lot of students that came from a poverty background, and the first income that they are getting is the income from an allowance, and the family starts expecting that. And so you can imagine, if you start paying Black tax while you are a student, what more as soon as you get a salary? What kind of expectations will there be for you if you started paying as a student? And maybe some of us have had to help our families behind when we were at school or at universities. Now you can also think about families who had to take over and support other families, okay? And those are the issues that when we talk about Black tax, we are definitely talking about somebody taking over or somebody helping somebody. We also have child-headed households that need support. And so the whole legacy of poverty that does follow Black people, it's something that we need to just think about and figure out how it applies to us. And that's basically what we are here to talk about today, is how does this thing apply to ourselves? So now, here's the question. Is it an obligation or is it social responsibility? Is it something that you feel compelled to do, or is it something that you feel empowered to do? Okay, and that's and there's subtle differences over there. To find out whether it's an obligation, we ask this question: is there a sense of guilt? Now, if you're feeling guilty, we say guilt is a feeling that leaves you feeling bad about an omission or a commission. You feel bad because you are omitting to do something. You feel bad because you have committed something. That is guilt. So you have to look at the psychology of your reaction to black text and say, do I feel guilty? And where does the guilt come from? Did someone give up something for me to be here? So if you feel that sense that somebody gave up something for me to be here, there's that sense of reciprocity that you want to repay, and that may lead to a little bit of guilt right there. So if there is guilt, there's often a sense of obligation. If you feel guilty that I am here, my siblings are not here in terms of social status or economic status, or my family, my parents, they're still behind, but I'm up there, you may feel that sense of guilt, and that will make it, you might feel obligated to do something about that. But what about if it's just a responsibility? There we ask a question, is there a sense of duty? A sense of duty is when you feel it's up to you to remedy the situation. You are empowered. You don't feel obligated. You don't have to do it, but you feel you have the power to change the situation. That is a sense of duty, okay? It is that question, if not me, then who? You look at the situation and say, I'm empowered. My relatives are not empowered. I need to do something about this in order to remedy the situation. So a sense of duty leads to a sense of responsibility. And so you sort of feel like, I'm responsible, I'm going to do this, to do this. Now, another thing is this: is it charity? Okay, charity differs from guilt or duty. Charity is out of the goodness of your heart. We really gonna ask somebody, people, to please turn off your mics, because we are picking up some feedback. Not sure it's from me, but if you are listening and you are checking your mic is not off, please turn it off. Dr. Ibonye Fancy, your mic is on. Morish Totom Mulume, your mic is on. Please turn your mic off so that we avoid the feedback. Thank you very much. So we have guilt, we have duty, we have charity. Guilt, that you feel obligated. I have to do this. Duty is I am empowered to help. Charity is I'm happy. It's a charitable thing. It's sort of a volunteer thing. So when we look at the psychology, you have to look at yourself and say, what is making me to go ahead and to pay the black tax that I'm paying? What is within me? Is it guilt? Is it duty? Is it charity? And guilt is way up there. It's emotionally, it's more taxing a little bit. And then you have, of course, the sense of duty where you feel I'm empowered, I can do this, I want to do this. And charity, of course, that's what it is. It's you out of the goodness of your heart trying to help, but not really being obligated or feeling a sense of duty. So now we look at the strategies. What are the strategies that we can follow to be able to do this? When we look at how to go about dealing with black tax, we ask, what is your motivation? What is your sense of motivation? And we say, you need to start with the end in mind. When will you consider yourself to have reached your goal? Because you see, if you don't set a goal to say, when I have accomplished this, I shall consider myself to have reached my goal, it becomes a bottomless pit. If you say, if I have educated my siblings up to a degree level, I shall have reached my goal, then you are able to know in advance at what point you will give up paying the black tax, because you shall have done the thing that you set out to do. But if you don't set any goal and you just keep sending money to all the relatives and you haven't decided at what point will it be enough, then it becomes a bottomless pit, and you get trapped in that yourself. So it is very important to start with the end in mind and say, at what point will I consider myself to have done my duty, or to have done my responsibility, or to have accomplished that which I set out to do, given that you also have your own limitations. You cannot take care of the entirety of the problems at home. So what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to lift everyone out of poverty? If that's what you're trying to accomplish, you have to ask yourself, is that realistic? So you can't lift everyone out of poverty. You can't lift even your own relatives or your own clan. You can't lift them. So you need to be very, very realistic when you talk about goals, to say, this is my limitations. I earn so much money. I can only put so much aside for Black Tax, since I too have my own responsibilities in terms of my own future, my own children, my own education, and my own going forward, but I can put so much aside. So once you are able to do that, you are able to have that in mind, to say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Are you trying to bring a little relief, permanent or temporary? Are you going to bring a permanent relief, or are you going to bring about a temporary relief? Sometimes, because we don't set a goal in advance, or we don't, we are not very clear about what we are trying to accomplish, all our relief measures become temporary. And if it's a temporary thing, it's for this month, and then next month there's a demand, and then the month after there's demand, then next year there's a demand, and then the year after there's a, so you're not really solving the problem. You are continually running in a circle to deal with this. So if it's like that, it really doesn't help you in that much. So are you trying to set up self-sustaining programs? One of the best ways to try to wean people off of help, or to remove yourself as a crutch, is to ensure that you are setting self-sustaining programs. So your motivation should be, what am I trying to accomplish here? What is it that I'm trying to do? Is there an end goal? Is there a point where I'm going to say, I've reached my goal and I do not need to continue anymore? And then you can turn around and continue with your own life. There's this principle that says, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. This is the principle that I believe we need to be able to apply when we are talking about Black Tax. We need to look at ourselves and say, are we giving people fish, or are we teaching them how to fish? If we're giving them fish, then it's up to us. Every day we go fishing and we carry that basket of fish and we go feed them. Tomorrow they are hungry again. We go back to the river, we fish again, and the river could be your workplace. You know, you go to work, you get a salary, and that salary goes and takes care of that, giving them fish, and they are not really getting empowered. So if you really, really want a proper strategy to deal with Black Tax, you're gonna have to think about, how can I teach them how to fish? Or how can I create self-sustaining programs, as we have spoken about in the previous slide over there? How much money could end world hunger? But I want to veer off a little bit over here and give you an example of something that the World Food Program has done. The director of the World Food Program was on CNN, and this was October 26, 2021. And he made a statement that 2% of Elon Musk's wealth could solve world hunger. All right. And it so happened perhaps that Elon Musk saw that. So 2%. So Elon Musk came and on Twitter and said, if WFP can describe on this Twitter thread exactly how 6 billion will solve world hunger, I will sell Tesla stock right now and do it. Okay, so that is sort of a dare, because 2% of Elon Musk's wealth, that's 6 billion, 6.6 actually to be exact. So 6.6, he says, I will do it. Just show me how you're gonna solve world hunger. Well, the World Health Program came up with a program a few weeks later. And this is what they said, if you look at the first bullet there, they were gonna use 3.5 billion for food and its delivery, or 2 billion for cash and food vouchers. So they basically are gonna take the billions and buy food and deliver food, or give cash and food vouchers. You know what happened? Elon Musk did not respond. He didn't give him any money. What he did though was he took the 6.6 billion and he contributed it to his own foundation. And many people in the media criticized him for that. They say he dared them, they showed him the program, he didn't pay. And I'll tell you, if we apply the fish, give them fish or teach them how to fish principle, I would definitely agree with Elon Musk for not giving the World Food Program that money. Because you see, 3.5 billion is going to give money. They're going to go deliver the food. What happens next year? You're not ending the hunger. You're just giving them fish. So he took the money, put it in his own foundation where he knows that perhaps there's entrepreneurial development. Once somebody gets help, they are never going to come back to him again. But this kind of program, and I'm not against this, but I'm just saying some of these programs that are supposed to be helping are not necessarily going to end world hunger. And I'm just using that for us to compare ourselves and say, are we the one that is continuing to give the fish, or are we going to teach people how to fish? Let me give you another example. SIDA, which is a short for Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, launched a program in Western Mali following a 2014 drought to help SIDA provide families, SIDA provided families suffering from food shortage with two assets, goats and seeds. Okay, so SIDA, the Swedish organization, decided that the only way to help people in Mali is to give them goats and seeds. And it says there, with these two resources, the organization was able to successfully stabilize Malinese livestock herds to combat the lack of flourishing grains. So here is somebody who decided, okay, there is hunger, there's drought in Mali. Do I take all this money and give it to them and buy them food vouchers? Or do I do a thing that could solve this problem for a longer time? So SIDA was not only able to alleviate poverty with goats in Western Mali, but the organization took things a step further by sharing best practices, such as care techniques to ensure sustainability. To date, SIDA's record in Western Mali proves to be exemplary. About 2,610 households in the country received goats to combat food insecurity and provide hope for future generations. When you read the article further, I think what I did here, I have that link over there. When you see the slides later, you can click on that link over there to read further on that program. So what happens is, where they showed them best practices, you know, they gave them goats because goats can survive in the harshest conditions, okay? And they not only gave them goats for them to eat the goats, they taught them how to make goat cheese, or how to make, you know, basically the value chain that came from the goats, to say, okay, you know, here's a goat, you can milk it. After milking it, you can make cheese, you can make dairy products and all of that stuff, so that you don't hurry yourself to eat the goat. You can eat the older ones when they get older. But you see, the program stayed because they made sure that they are teaching people how to fish. So when we help, we have to look at ourselves and say, are we putting our families in a position where they can help themselves by giving them best practices? Now, it may not be you who's going to do that, but you can be able to find somebody who can say, look, if I spend 10,000 on groceries over the next 6 months, or spend 10,000, you know, and bought some goats, so using the same example, and I'm not suggesting that everybody should now go start buying goats. I'm just saying you can find a program that people can use to help themselves. And the more they help themselves, the more you take the burden off of yourself. And I've had quite a few clients that have done this. I remember one client that looked at the situation at home and said, if I allowed this family, my own family, to totally depend on me, I'm going to be in trouble because there's a lot of needs. So what she did was she broke up her, she was very young, I think very early on, around 25, 30 when she started working. But she said, the first 5 years of my work, I'm going to dedicate it to helping my family. So for the first 5 years, she took that loan, built her mother a nice house, plus an extra house at the back. in Kanye and said, please, from the rentals of that, I need you to take care of yourself. And then she dedicated the future of herself, the next 5 years, to buying, to investments for herself. Over the next 5 and 10 years, she was investing. At the 15th cycle, so 15 years. The first 5 years, help family. Second and third 5 years, start investing. By the fourth 5-year period, which was when she was in her 20s, she was very, very focused. She was able to completely build wealth. She had bought enough plots for herself to go into real estate. She had bought enough, not just in the south in Kanye, where she came from. She was now in the north, where she was able to go not just into residential real estate, but now she was going into a tourism space, where she was able to start getting involved in those, and of course farming as well. In fact, it was a month ago, I was in a workshop with her and she was telling me about this program, but she told me this about 3 or 4 years ago, and she's continuing to do that. But this is something that she set with herself to say, this is what I'm going to do to tackle the black tax on my family. I'm going to create things. I'm going to invest and build wealth. And when I build wealth, I'm going to be able to help better than if I just go ahead and give and sacrifice myself. This is the next slide here. It's a scriptural verse, so I'm not trying to get religious on anybody. But here's a very important thing that Jesus did say. He said, the poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. Now, I want you to analyze that, not in a religious context, but in the reality of the world. And I'm not saying you are Jesus, but I want you to put yourself in Jesus's feet, okay? Shoes, rather. Put yourself in Jesus's shoes and say, the poor in my family will always be there, but they won't always have me, okay? I'm putting you in Jesus' feet now, in the shoes, okay? You won't always be there. So what are you going to do while you are still there to make sure that when you are not there, the program continues? Now, we all know what Jesus did. He poured himself into 12 apostles and 70 more, and 2,000 years later, Christianity is still flourishing because he created a system that can go on without him physically being there. Now, it's a thing that I want you to think about and say, what am I doing in terms of black tax? Am I just going to complain that it is too heavy and it's pulling down on me? Or am I going to seriously consider doing things that will help me to help, that even when I am not there, this program can continue to help my family and get them out of poverty? So let's look into black tax and building wealth. What can we do to make sure that while we are dealing with this black tax, while we have all this psychology behind us, our psychology should be, yes, I understand where we came from. We understand why we are here, but we want to change our mind from being the people that are feeding or giving people fish to where we are teaching people how to fish. And what are the programs? What strategies can we use to do that? The first strategy that I want you to think about is, I say, use the airplane approach. You know, in the airplane, when they tell you, should cabin pressure drop, oxygen masks will fall from the top. Put your mask first. Put your mask on first so that you can turn around and help someone else. So you are the important piece in solving this. There is no point you studying yourself to help anybody else. The airplane approach is, make sure that you yourself are set. Make sure that you are focused on building the wealth, because it is that very wealth that will help other people, beside you. So sometimes out of guilt can make you do wrong things. And it's important to step outside of guilt and make sure that now you are running this thing with a proper mindset and a proper program. Do you have your oxygen mask on? Or are you running out of breath yourself while you're running around trying to help everybody else? The important thing is, get your oxygen mask on. How do you do that? You set your financial plan and financial goals first. It is absolutely crucial that you set your financial plans and financial goals first. remembering that every goal that you set must be financed. You don't set a goal and it finances itself. Every goal that you set is going to be financed. Now, this is where we come in to help you out as first son. If you don't know what a financial plan looks like, look, if you want to build a house, you definitely know you need to go to an architect. The architect will draw the building and take it to council. The city council will pass it if it's right. But the architect is the person who can draw that. You're not going to build a house without that plan being passed. On the financial side, the financial planners can do that. A fully fledged financial plan will include things that you can do today and things you can do tomorrow. You're going to be able to look at not just your current situation and how to run your budget right now, but also how to set money aside for your children's education, how to set aside money for your own retirement, how to set aside money for your own investment, and how to definitely build a proper portfolio. And at the end, when you die, to think about your estate planning as well. So a financial plan is a roadmap that you must have. If you don't have that roadmap, you are very likely to just be running today's budget, okay? If you don't have a future roadmap, which is a financial plan, and you don't have financial goals that you're trying to accomplish, I guarantee you every month's salary will deal with this month's problems. And the next month's salary will deal with next month's problems. And no amount of money from today's salary is going to take care of the wealth plan or the goals that you do have, which is absolutely important. Now, here's another important thing that you need to put into place when you think about your financial plan. You need to understand time and money. Time, sometimes they say time is money, okay? But time and money, they work together. Think about a mortgage. A mortgage is a 20-year to 25-year program. If you are 35 today and you intend to retire at 55, you better get your mortgage now. If you intend to retire at age 60, maybe you still have a little bit of time. But if you are 40 now and you intend to retire at 60, you only have that 20 years, you have to work backwards. So time and money to say, this is a program I must enter right now. If I'm gonna get a mortgage, look at your age, look at your retirement age. That is the gap within which you can pay the mortgage. Think about education, the education of your children. You know, if you don't think about the fact that this child is going to turn 13 and is going to go to secondary school at some point, you're just going to be focused on today's school fees and today's mobile. That's all you're going to think about. But it's important to say, what is the gap between when my child goes to secondary school? What is the gap before they go to tertiary education? And to know how much time you have to set money aside. That is part of financial planning. When we think about your retirement, we say, how old are you? When do you want to retire? How much time do you have to put how much money aside? Because then we go to the end, we say, if you are 65 and you are already earning so much, how much more would you like to earn? Or when you retire at 60, for example, how much would you like to earn? And based on how much you would like to earn in your retirement, we calculate the capital that would be required at retirement. And today you have time between now and that time to raise that money to make sure that by the time you retire, you have a fully funded retirement fund. Okay, so time and money work together. If you just run around and you're doing left, right, and center, helping people, but you don't have a plan and you're not working towards a particular goal, you don't have a financial plan that is going to help you out, time's gonna pass by. I've seen so many people in my world of financial counseling where time is gone. They are at the point of retirement and they haven't done enough. Time is gone. Their child is ready to go to school, but there's no money, so they have to get a loan. You have to go into a loan situation. And think about getting into a loan while you are already in a mortgage loan, while you have some car loans to deal with. Where is the space for a loan for an education of a child? When we look in the US, for example, so many children that go into tertiary education are burdened with student loans because they have to carry, the banks there are willing to lend the student the money, banking on the future of this child, that when they work, they're gonna start working for the bank. So you could call that black tax as well, because you see, as soon as they finish and they graduate and they get a job, the first person that's going to have a demand on their money is the bank who lent them money to go to school. So that's it. That's another way to think about, those kind of responsibilities that come upon us. So what do you need to do in terms of a strategy? We need to have a balanced strategies, okay? Balanced strategies are talking about, be careful. I think I've mentioned this before in previous presentations here. Be clear about capital intensive investments and non-capital intensive investment. It is very clear that I said real estate is capital intensive. Farming is capital intensive. You may think I want to do the farming so that my family can live off of it, but anybody who's ever tried real farming knows that farming is capital intensive, and therefore it is something that you need to be very, very aware of. That do you have the money right now to focus into that? Non-capital intensive investments are those that you can throw in 1,000 every month, 1,000 every month. And that's when you are building liquidity. Building liquidity, I've seen a lot of people who have lots of hard assets, but have no liquidity. And if you don't have liquidity, what we mean is available cash. If you don't have available cash to take care of problems when they arise, you have to liquidate your hard assets, okay? I'm sure you've seen in the newspapers the matter between where a whole house is being sold. Look, that house may be worth 2 million, but if you owe the bank 200,000 and you don't have it, they will sell the house to get the 200,000, okay? That's basically lack of liquidity. But if you had that liquidity, you wouldn't have to go through the process of being in the matter between to sell the house to pay 200,000. So building a portfolio, a balanced portfolio is not complete without liquidity. Now, here's another thing that you're gonna have to do: be frugal and strategic. Okay, frugality is very, very important. But I'm sorry I have to say that in Setswana. I'm sure there are others who don't speak Setswana. But bongame bobutlokwa. And when I talk about bongame, I'm talking about you making sure that you are in charge of your wallet. You are in charge, and it's not just money in my account and it's just going left, right, and center. When we say be frugal, we are just saying be diligent. Know where your money goes. Know what it is doing when it goes there. You will have no clue if you don't have a financial plan. You will have no clue if you're not chasing a particular financial goal. I think in the past presentation, we talked about Harvard graduates who were living paycheck to paycheck because they did not write down their financial goals and they were not able to track them and follow them properly. We could all easily fall into that trap of people living paycheck to paycheck. But frugality is one of those things. Watch your money. You worked hard for it. You worked hard for it. You need to make sure that you don't just give it out like that. Prioritize self-sustaining, income-generating projects above charity projects. I'm not asking you to be a hard-hearted person. I'm not asking you to be uncaring, but I'm just saying, I like giving the example and say, if you are planting a mango tree, and the mango tree is going to take 3 to 4 years before it bears fruit. But in the first or the second year, somebody comes and say, I'm feeling cold, I'm looking for firewood. And then they cut down the mango tree for firewood, right? Then obviously you will never be able to harvest from the mango tree. But if you understand that, look, let's find the wood elsewhere, but protect this mango tree, because from the 3rd year onwards, we are going to have mangoes galore everywhere, all right? And so the thing that you are trying to build that is going to help everybody, it's up to you to protect. If it is like the Swedish did in Mali, if it's goats, protect the goats, okay? Whatever it is that you set up, if it's chickens, protect the chickens. People can't just eat those chickens. They got to make sure that they multiply, they do. You are running a business, you're helping them to help themselves so that you can extricate yourself from being the person having to buy the fish every single month. So prioritizing self-sustaining income generating project goes into your budget. Those things don't budget themselves. It is you having to make a decision. Now, this is a sample budget over here, okay? It's just a sample. Everybody's one's gonna be different, all right? But I think 2 months ago, I talked about the principle of FIRE, financial independence and retiring early. And if you just Google that FIRE, F-I-R-E, financial independence and retiring early, we found that a lot of those guys who reached to that point of retiring early, they only limited their living expenses, including mortgage, to 50% of their income. 50%. So they decided, I'm going to live within this 50%, and then the other 50% is going to do other things. Now you may have your black tax there that takes 10%, which you are helping. Now, it is not just a charity event. Remember, black tax, as you pay it, the strategy of black tax should be teaching them how to fish. It's not just giving money away. And then, of course, investments and insurance. Insurance is part of your plan, because if you don't insure where you are at, insurance is part of a protection plan. Of course, if you know you have your assets, you insure them so that should anything happen to them, you can get them back. You insure your plan as well. You know, when we do estate planning, I've had clients where we have a will, and the will was drafted by a lawyer, and the will is legally correct, but financially broke, because a will that doesn't have liquidity inside or enough insurance to produce the money for paying taxes leads to where assets that are supposed to be given to to your descendants have to be sold to pay the tax man, because the tax man always takes cash. So that is the important thing that you have to remember. So it's just a sample budget. Everybody's one's gonna be different. We have somebody there whose mic is on. Okay, I think they got kicked out. All right. Yeah, so sample budget is that. Yours will be different, but all I'm saying is, let not your entire budget be living expenses, 100% living expenses. You have to limit that. That is the hardest one to limit. You have to make a decision to say, well, I need to limit that side and make sure that I am focused on what I am doing over here. All right. So now, and then you can able to think about the investments. Let's look at maybe the next slide here about investment. How do I build a balanced portfolio? Okay. Again, everyone's one's going to be different. Okay. But we know that in a balanced portfolio, there will be some property, there will be some unit trusts, there will be insurance, there will be equities, and there will be alternative investments such as your business, your farms, your all of that stuff, you know, or even derivatives. We call them alternative investments. So the way you think about this plan is to make sure that you are not all in one. If your salary goes towards just expenses, including black tax, you are not going to reach your goals. So when I said begin with the end in mind, if you earn 10,000 Pula as an example, and you are beginning with the end in mind, you take the 3,000 and you put it away. It is not available for living expenses. And then your black tax, you see, if you look at this previous slides over here, your black tax become part of your living expenses. That takes you to 60%. But this part, so when I say begin with the end in mind, start investing first. It's important to put money away first, because you see, if you just have 10,000 and you tell your family, I have 10,000, it's going to be a bottomless pit. All that money is going to disappear into the black tax, and you're going to take loan to cover some more things. But if you have the financial discipline to say, no, I stop here, this is all I can do. Look, everybody has a limitation, and there's that much that you can do, and some of these things you cannot do. So know what you can do Know what you cannot do and do that which you can, so that you can take care of everybody to the extent possible. But remember, as long as you are helping people and people get used to charity, they will never stop asking you. They actually demand more and more. That's why I said this topic is very sensitive, because all of us on the call right now, we know who we are helping. We know who we are dealing with in our families. And we are emotionally attached to the people that we are helping, and which makes it very difficult for us to say yes or no to. Okay, so let's do a quick summary over here. What is your motivation? Guilt, duty, or charity? Why are you doing what you are doing? Okay, starting with the end in mind. When you start with the end in mind, you know what you are trying to accomplish, and you go towards accomplishing that goal. Teach them how to fish. Even if you don't know how to fish, learn how to fish and teach them how to fish. The principle is, how do I empower people instead of me continually being the one giving them out? Set your financial plan and financial goals first. Get help if you don't know how to go about that. So when we think about what we need to do, the things we need to accomplish, we said, start with yourself first, put your oxygen mask on, and then go on to help the vulnerable people next to you that need the help. You help yourself first. Now, most of us on the call have had the privilege of being helped, perhaps by the government, to go to school, and we are educated because the government has done something. Do you know that the government, even this very year, has started cutting down on the number of sponsorships that they're giving out? Because the government is starting to get into the mindset of, we can't be the one supplying the fish all the time. If we have educated you, it will be your turn to educate the next generation. This very year, they cut down the numbers, and we don't know where it's going. So that's why we always want to encourage parents to say, please make sure that you yourself are not saying, the government helped me, they will help my children. They might not be willing to help your children at some point. So your financial plan is very, very important for you to set that money aside, to make sure. Now, if you set the money aside and your child is fortunate enough to get the government scholarship, boom, they still have the money. They can be like that white professional who goes on to investing black tax off their shoulders. And I'm sure many of us would not like our children to pay black tax like we have. Let's work on the balanced budget. Okay. And let's remember our motivation. Most of us were motivated to study hard so that we can get a government scholarship. Your children might not be as motivated as you were, because your children might say, even if I don't get a government scholarship, my mother is a doctor, my father is a doctor, they should be able to afford this. While you are thinking, no, the government will take care of it. So we are just saying, plan your life in such a way that you don't have to pass on the black tax to the next generation. Plan your life in such a way. You are carrying it. Let's not pass it on to the next generation. We have been empowered. Let's empower the next generation. And that basically is what it becomes. Build your balanced budget, build your balanced portfolio, get the help that you need. We are here to be able to help you with all of those things. And looking at my time here, I think I might just have 5 minutes for questions. So I'll say thank you for your attention. There is our email address is right there, and my number is right there as well. You can send us an email at life@firstsun.co.bw, or my one is there, nelson@moedi.net. And that little QR code there is where you can get hold of the books that I have written to be able to help you. There's many of the topics that I'm talking about. I have books on those. If you just scan that, it will take you to my Amazon platform, and you can be able to buy some of those books and take them home. So yeah, thank you very much, Fabi. I think that's all I have for now. I will put it back to you, and if there are any questions, we will take it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nelson. I think we'll just open up for questions. If anyone has a question, we can just ask Mr. Nelson.
I hope not everybody's so stunned that they can't ask questions. I'm sure you can. Okay, Yao, there, your hand is up. Go for it.
Okay, hi, Uncle Nels.
Hi, Yao.
Thank how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I was actually chatting with somebody on the other side. You know, I've never had to play black tax. I actually had to be explained what black tax was by my dad, which you wouldn't be surprised knowing him. But I just thought I should maybe share my experience since nobody seems to have a question. From my very, very limited experience is that when you have kids, you're having them to live a life. You raise them, you give them away, you do everything that you need to do so that they become independent people, not for them to take care of you. And I think it's a cultural thing, African culture, that you have kids so that they take care of you when they are old, when they start working and whatnot. But I think to a certain extent that we're living in the 21st century, people have dreams and visions and plans and everything. And if you raise your kids right and teach them financial independence and wisdom, and you lay the foundation, then they should be able to do pretty much what you summarized, have a plan, have financial plan, have a budget, and know what you can and can't do. And I think if this lesson, for at least for me, is that we need to move away from trying to, I don't know what the motivation is behind black tax. Like I said, I really didn't know what it was. But I think if you want to take care of your parents, you set a budget for yourself so that you are able to take care of them. But at the same time, you are able to build a future for yourself. Because if you spend the first 5 years of your working taking care of them or doing black tax, as they put it, then you're not going to be able to have a sustainable income or sustainable savings in order for you to continue taking care of them. Because now people are living to 80, 90 years old. If you retire at the age of 55, assuming you're a government employee, and you're still taking care of your parents, your pension won't be able to sustain that. And if for some reason you have nieces who depend on you, or you have kids, so you're married and you have kids, so it's important to set a financial portfolio that will be able to sustain you. And for you to do that, you need to have a budget early on. You need to be able to put money aside early on, so that when you do retire, you still have money to continue paying black tax, if we put it that way, or taking care of your parents, if you see it that way. And I think also, if you've set up a diverse portfolio, like you put on that one pie chart, that was beautiful, actually. I looked at it and I was just like, wow, this is brilliant. But then this is your this is your expertise. So I think if we would all, as doctors, especially knowing that most doctors are not the most financially literate, if we start early on, like from starting off as medical students and as interns, learning how to diversify our financial portfolio and have a solid investment, so that by the time, okay, your parents leave jobs. Some people start working while their parents are still working. So when their parents leave jobs, you are able to help them. And it won't be out of guilt. It will be because, okay, I've set up my life in that I have an extra 5,000 that I can give to my parents every single month, and it's not going to put a dent on my budget. And I'll be happy to go home and spend a week knowing that I'm doing this because I want to, not because I have to, or not because I feel guilty that, you know, my parents had to raise me, or they don't have what I have or whatnot, you know. So I think I honestly just wanted to say I appreciate this. And I believe that all of us, especially doctors, really, really needed this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Yaone. Yes, and again, we are still available to continue to help us, First Son. I know Paul, Mr. State, your hand is up. I'm sure you want to comment. Mr. State is the MD of First Son, and I'm sure he's got wise words to say as well.
Thank you, Nelson. Good afternoon, everybody. Very interesting topic we have. I've posted on the chat group, I posted something that Nelson has been very polite, that he did not want to attack family structures by not identifying exactly who is the black taxman. He told us about the tax system, which does not really identify what the black taxman is. So in that particular regard, I'm sure everybody who is listening will know who is number one on the ladder of black tax people. Obviously, it is our parents. We are obliged to go back to our parents and assist wherever possible. But again, with the fish example he was giving, I'm glad that the BDU has got a very young generation. We are looking at average 30 years. And on average 30 years, I'm sure most of us still have parents who are in the region of the sub 50 bracket or sub 60 bracket. And in that regard, if you think that black tax is bad now, that black tax can be very biting when those people tend to age 72, 73, when they no longer have income, or whatever income they are having. I'll tell you, there's one ill that is on our system at the moment. It is the severance package. If you see your parents receiving their severance packages every other 5 years and enjoying it, they're not doing you any favor, because at the end of their work, they are not going to be having a retirement plan. And when they don't have a retirement plan, that's when you're going to realize how black tax will bite you. Because now you have to take care of their medical bills, you have to take care of their food, you have got to take care of everybody. So indeed, I think as you learn what has been presented here, let's go on there and be ambassadors of passing the information of being financially independent in retirement. So you need to go out there and now look and say to your parents, what are you doing with your severance package? Are you investing it for your retirement, or you are not investing it? It's not too late for a 45-year-old or a 50-year-old to go on a pension plan. Encourage them to prepare for their retirement, so that when you are running your own time, when you are now looking after your children through university, you don't have your parents at the other end to look for as far as their medical and their food and their everything is concerned. So to be very blunt, the black taxmen in my generation, I won't tell you how old I am, my black taxmen did not have the privilege of learning about financial planning. So we are obliged. But at your age, you still have your parents to show them how they can really take care of themselves and avoid being black tax people. So at the end of the day, let's educate. Let's, whatever we have learned here, let's go and practice it at home to make sure that our dependents become fishermen. I think in a nutshell, anyone who wants to have a one-on-one discussion on this issue, contact us. We'll be happy to talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Consilia State, are you gonna make a comment? Hand is up.
Yes, I want to make a comment. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Chitate didn't want to tell you how old he is. I'm his older sister and he invited me. I'm calling from UK.
Wonderful.
Number one, this topic is very real. And a lot of us, you know, we do it out of duty. I am lucky I'm lucky that I spent most of my adult life in the UK. I worked very hard, supported very hard. But the one thing that I did, I made sure that my pensions and everything were in place. I am 66 soon. I've got a 33-year-old daughter, and I've rescued over many, many years until to the point where I said, my daughter, the same choices that you have, I too have. And I stopped rescuing. So yes, our children growing up today, and I'm talking anything 16 to whatever, 40, 50. Once, and she's the only one I have. I'm sure my father, before he died, he said, your children look at you, talking about all of me and my siblings. They look at you and say, one day, this is all going to be mine. And believe you me, your children will sell your big houses online. And they go on holidays when you're struggling not to do that. So what you said, Mr. Nelson, is very true. We need to think about what happens in an aeroplane. Look after you first before you you help other people. So I'm surviving because I, in my little mind, managed to do those things in place. So right now, yes, I've got I own my house. I have my pension. Tomorrow, even if I don't go to work, I have food on the plate. But, for our generation of our parents, obviously they couldn't do that. We have to look after them. But for our children, please, Christmas is not just about a PlayStation and then the latest iPhone. Teach them financial, because that's what we lacked. And my brother said so. We didn't know anything about, saving money or planning for the future and everything. I just had one question for you, Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
A lot of the times when, especially here in the UK, we're finding that, as soon as somebody dies, diaspora insurance people come in and they're selling their insurance. And a lot of the times, we panic, we are emotional, we whatever, and we start paying those £40 a month and what have you, in the hope that it pays me 10,000 upon my death to give to my daughter to come to my funeral and everything. Is that worthy of my money? What do you think?
Okay.
Did I make it clear?
Yes. Well, yeah, I think I understand. If I don't answer properly, you'll correct me. I
Yeah.
think, remember, insurance is not an investment.
Yeah.
Insurance is a protection tool.
Yeah.
If you buy a funeral cover for 50,000, it will run out of after the funeral. That's the
Yes.
funeral cover. It just takes care of the funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance is money that's going to take care of those who remain after you are gone. Investments are things that you can live off of yourself and continue to help others with. So we do need insurance, we do need funeral covers, but more than both, we need investments that can be able to help our children to live a better life. So that balanced portfolio is, it has insurance in it, but it has those investments, because you don't know how long you're going to live. So if if you have just an insurance cover, it doesn't pay you, it pays after death. So what are you living off of? That's why we talk about retirement planning and investment planning and building a balanced portfolio that is not going to run out while you are still alive and then you go into poverty. So that is what a financial plan does. That's what we are able to do for everyone at First Son. All members of BDU, call us. We will do a free financial plan for you, and it's up to you to implement it what time.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been very useful. I particularly like the situation with the fish, and I think a Zambian woman did the same. They started fish farming, and it's working well. So thank you, and have a good day.
You're welcome. Great, thank you. Fabi, I bring the story to you back.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Any more questions? Please do check in the chat box, Mr. Nelson, if there's any comments.
Okay, chat box is empty right now, I think.
Okay, any more questions from the floor before we close? I think I'll just give it a minute.
Okay, I think somebody's asking, how do we reach you? I have that last slide. I had my details over there. You can send an email to life@firstsun.co.bw, life@firstsun.co.bw. And then, of course, when you rewatch this, since it's being recorded, you'll be able to see the other contacts as well. But in a nutshell, you can just send life@firstsun.co.bw. My number is 7273-3417. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Nelson. If there's no questions, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Nelson for always making time to advise us and teach us more on how to get through this life. You know, we get to meet quite a lot that has been there, and we just join in without knowing what's what, out of obligation and all the like. So I'd just love to thank you for this insightful presentation, and just to say thank you to the members for joining us. I hope you got to learn a thing or two, and will be able to then take up anything that comes into your life and be able to manage the financial side of things. Remember, First Sun is there for you. BDU is there for you. You can access First Sun anytime. Mr. Nelson has shared his contacts. If you need them, please do ask any of the executive to forward you the contacts in order to reach them to assist you with any form of financial advice. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Great, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.